Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to House Divided, Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Anwar Richardson, Chad Hastings, no longer on a boat, but not back off Orange Bloods Live just yet, which means you get the Monday Overreaction crew or the Overreaction Monday crew. I'm just going to do that until the freaking end of time. Like, comment, subscribe to the page, scan that QR code if you want to join Orange Bloods and get it. It's a war room night. And Anwar already told me he's got the goods.
Yeah. Got some good stuff.
He mentioned it in teams, and I was like, oh, I got to step up. Instead of saying, I'm good, I'll take the night off, I was like, hey, man, I have nothing, but I will change that. Don't worry, I will step up my game. So scan that QR code. By the way, jump into the chat, the Specs chat. Give us some super chats or just regular chats or like whatever you feel like doing. We would be as interactive as we can possibly be. And the show is brought to you by Texas Card House and the guys over at Hijack Poker. Man, if you want to play online for real money against real people, there's a nooner. The nooner is going on right now. It just started. I think it's an $11 buy-in. They moved it up $1. But yeah, man, you're playing for real cash against real people like the good old days when we played Poker Stars and the Ultimate Bet. Now you can do Hijack Poker. They made it. It's legit. It's the bomb. I pretty much play every day. So Anwar, I didn't know I was going to be doing a show with you today. And then it was like, hey, you want some company? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll take some company. Although, you know, you do solo shows and sometimes you get into the rhythm of doing solo shows. So I would have been fine. But this is a fun topic I think that we're going to get into today. By the way, shout out to the Texas women's softball team. One went away from a national championship and not an insignificant deal. You think about the 5 sports, the 5 major. I think if I were to rank them in order, Anwar, it would go football. Some people just go football. I get it, right?
Yeah. We're talking legit. Yeah.
Football, men's basketball, baseball, women's basketball, and then I think softball slides in right after that. It's either that or volleyball. And when you look at when all of those other sports last won their last national championship, football was 2005, same for baseball. Men's basketball has never done it. Women's basketball, 1986. Volleyball, if you wanted to flip them ahead of softball, obviously have won national championships. But
yeah,
if you think softball is the 5th, then Texas has a chance to win its first Big 5 national championship in 20 years. So not an insignificant thing that Mike White and that crew have going in Oklahoma City, but we're not going to spend our time talking about that today.
No disrespect to the swim team who kicks ass, right? Every single year catch, right? And, you know, the other programs that
golf. I mean, yeah. No, it's
rowing.
You know, they win. Rowing, you know, like they've all won that. It feels like every sport, honestly, other than softball and basketball, have won national championships on the women's side. And obviously the men's side is incredibly productive. But on the discussion today, and I knew that I was going to have this conversation at some point this week, probably on Monday. I was in a text exchange back and forth with somebody, and I just asked the question, like, hey, man, are you guys nervous about the lack of the NCAA settlement at all? Just trying to get a read for the room. And he was like, oh, man, this thing's about to be the wild, wild west. If this thing doesn't get approved, it's basically open season. And then I read an article yesterday on CBSSports.com, and they were focusing, the whole article was kind of on the gist of what the hell happens if the settlement doesn't get approved, if the judge just decides. And there's no guarantee that the judge is going to approve this thing or approve it on the time frame that college football wants her to approve it by, which is by July 1st. But we're looking at a shotgun marriage situation anyway, where no matter when the approval of the settlement comes in, July 1st is right around the corner. But there's the real possibility of a shotgun marriage of college football trying to figure out what it does with 1.3 $1.4 at a minimum billion invested into revenue sharing. It's in contracts. I mean, people will be expecting money on August 1st. And there might not be approval for it. And college football and college athletics may just have to say, okay, we're revenue sharing without the courts telling us to do so. There are no guardrails. There's no auditing system. There's no commissioner or committee that serves as watchdogs over this. It will just be wild, wild west. Anything goes. Or as one of the agents that was quoted in this CBSSports.com article yesterday said, if there's no settlement, every agent in America should be walking into an athletic director's office on August 1st and saying, give me more. I want more right now. And it is very quietly, I think, the single biggest story in sports, Anwar, with regards to what the hell happens if this thing doesn't go exactly right the way everybody has their fingers crossed that it's going to go, but there's no guarantee whatsoever that that's what's going to happen.
No, there isn't. And, the judge is, kind of extended a deadline in order to kind of, still look through some things and work on some terms. And there's some little specifics in there, right, Catch, as far as, the walk-on athletes, right, and the limits and all these kind of things. Where now, you had programs that made cuts, Catch, to walk-ons and people, and then all of a sudden the judge's like, I don't really know if I like that. And now they got to figure out, well, what do you do with those people who were told, like, hey, you can't be here, we've got no space for you. Like, you may have to find a way to get those people deals, right? And because it's like, just looking at this whole big picture. But Catch, it's interesting because when we were talking about doing this, you told me what the topic was. It's interesting that this whole thing, Catch, got started by an institution that was greedy as hell and never wanted to share the revenue or the profits with the labor force. Like that's literally how it got started. They literally coined the phrase, Catch. You remember all the things we used to watch about student athletes, student athletes, emphasis on student, right? And so they made it, Catch, so none of these people could get paid, and they're going to take all the money. And you guys, I mean, you should be okay with like a college diploma, right? Like that's what you wanted, right? And then it's like, well, yeah, I want the diploma, but you are making a lot of money off of me, right? And all these things. And so all of a sudden, Catch, but we were lied to, and they lied to everyone for years. Because, Catch, you remember what they said? Man, it bankrupt us. All these schools would go out of business, Catch. These people didn't have athletic departments if we had to do any kind of revenue sharing. Like, we're doomed if this happened. And Catch, it was all a bunch of BS so they can keep the money. And now they're dealing with the repercussions of that.
The thing is, I don't think anybody really knows what this thing's going to look like. There will be some schools that are forced into spending a certain amount of money that, if the settlement doesn't go through, might just take the approach of, well, no money to spend. And you can't transfer anywhere anyway because the portal is closed.
Correct.
So you either play for nothing because, hey, the settlement didn't go through, or you may find some schools that are like, bet. In fact, there could be some schools that stack it in a way. There will be no guardrails. It will simply be the schools saying, maybe and some of them may say, there's no law that says there's a limit. So if we're deciding that we're going to pay players, who are we reporting to? There's no one. This would be someone in the chat, and don't worry, Longhorn Football Edits. I'm going to get to your super chat in just a second, but Chris Bennett asks, Cool Mo D Wild Wild West or Will Smith's Wild Wild West? I think Cool Mo D's Wild Wild West.
Yeah, that was more, I mean, that's the original, the Wild Wild West.
Well, because it feels like you could catch a bullet and the Cool Mo D Wild Wild West, whereas Will Smith was like Disneyland Wild Wild West.
Yeah. It was cute. It was cute.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's real concerns about what all of this looks like, and there's the threat of an obscene amount of litigation coming out of this. Just one lawsuit after another, because contracts have been worked out and signed under the impression that the money will be there on July 1st. It's why there's an assumption that come hell or high water, college football will just have to decide we're sharing money with players. And it's a hell of a thing if a settlement ushers you into that instead of, hey, man, we don't have a settlement, so now we're just doing it, which
it goes against everything that they've been built on, Catch. It's
because normally you would 5 years ago, if you would have told the college football administrators, like, hey, you know what? There's potentially a loophole that you can clutch onto at the very end to not share a penny until it absolutely gets resolved. You could make a case that these athletic directors and school presidents and football coaches would have said, wait a minute, there might be a delay. Like the judge may just look at this thing and not approve it, and then there's no approval, right?
Yeah.
That would have sounded good maybe even 12 months ago. But they've all been working with the idea that they're going to have $20.5 million to spread out throughout the athletic department. That money at Texas is accounted for. It's spent. And one person that I was texting with this week basically suggested that if the schools decided not to just ignore the fact that there's not a settlement and to just go forward, that there would just be defaulting everywhere. That every program in the country would be defaulting on contracts because I don't even think Texas has that, let's say 18 million, 17 million, whatever it is. It's I believe it's a 75-5-5, a 75-15, 5-5 split. So football would get 75%.
Yes.
They'll get like 15 of that. There is no stashed away account. And I don't think it would be as easy as Chris Del Conte being able to go, hey, guys, that settlement thing didn't go through. So either they're going to do it, and I think every school is going to have a different view of how you do this. Again,
By the way, when you say that, Catch, just so everyone understands, it's the $20.5 million split, right? And so some people are looking at it as 75% goes towards football, 15% towards men's basketball, 5% towards women's basketball, and 5% towards other sports. However, you can play with the numbers because maybe you want to go 80% football, maybe you want to go 85% football, and then divvy it up. So it's just how they're going to divvy up that 20.
And every school split is different. I know at KU, the men's basketball program gets more money than the basketball program at Texas will do. And the response from the KU football coaches has been, you're going to put us into a situation where as a program, we have millions of dollars less of support in the way of revenue sharing for the program than the schools that we're competing against. And they're like, yo, man, have you ever been to Allen Fieldhouse? We get more people at a basketball game than we do at a football game. So with all due respect, take your money and be quiet. But, every school will be a little bit different. But the thing is, there will be more. Texas, based on my sourcing, is at about a $36 million team spend, not 40, but more than 35 is what I've been told. Revenue sharing and everything else added on top, 36 plus. If they don't have, let's just call it 15 because it'd be, or 16-ish from an accounting standpoint, that's half the money they need that they expect the athletic department to cover. They don't have it. And there is nobody for them to go to say, hey, man, can you cut a $16 million check for us for this year? Just this year. That doesn't buy a building. That buys you this year's team. And every school, Texas isn't alone. I mean, everybody has major problems if they don't just volunteer to move forward into the wild west.
By the way, just okay, you answered that. Let's do that because I want to answer Colby's question as well.
Longhorn Football Edits. Thank you, by the way, for the $5 super chat. I'll start off and tip the jar. See, we love that. That's why That's why we're okay with you, Longhorn Football Edits, among other reasons. Everybody do the thing. Like this video, sub to the channel, and hit the bell to get notifications. Do it. Do it. That's right, Longhorn Football Edits. It's almost like we pay you to do that. We don't, but keep that up, and you never know.
So Colby asked the question in the chat, Catch, and basically the deals that they have now. So it's kind of two different things, right? As far as not that one.
Okay. Real quick, Colby, because it's a fair question. There will be an announcement on kind of our future schedule as a whole in the next couple of weeks. The algorithms and the data says that we need to do more records and less lives. It's a long discussion, but we're going to be tweaking some things, and stay tuned is what I would say. Thank you for asking. Sorry, I don't have a fuller answer, but like nothing wonky's going on. Like, just FYI, we're just making some tweaks that we think are more channel and content friendly. I'm sorry. Now there was another Colby question.
No, there was another Colby question though, but which I appreciated. Colby's asked good ones. He goes, I don't understand the settlement at all will affect the players' NIL deals that are currently separate from the school, like Arch's deal with Red Bull. The deals that are done now, we're not talking about those deals. The horses are in the barn. Catch might be talking about money that's allocated, but the deal, what many schools did, Colby, was they wanted to get deals done before the settlement goes in. All right, because what's going to happen, Colby, when the settlement goes in, and let's say it goes into effective July 1st. All NIL deals now have to go through a clearinghouse, right? And now it has to be approved, true name, image, and likeness. So you can't be sponsored by OB and never do an OB show. You would have to be sponsored by OB and then actually show that you're doing shows, right?
And you probably couldn't get like $1 million deal to do one show a week, because they're going to look at what an algorithm that says what they think your market value is.
Yes.
And if it's out of whack in any shape, form, or fashion, the way it's supposed to work is that they will basically veto that agreement.
Yes.
The question is, like, how much teeth will there be into that? It kind of remains to be seen. But the schools believe that this thing will have some teeth. If it doesn't go through, you're going to see a lot of what Anwar's talking about, I think, now in the back end. For instance, if there's no settlement ruling, then there's nothing. If you're going to, like, they can all say, hey, we unofficially cap ourselves at 20.5, and they cross their fingers and they put it behind their back. But a school like Texas might go to Colin Simmons and say, hey, man, what do you want next year? Are you good with like $3 million? And they might, as crazy, that would be, I think, a pretty drastic leap up from what he'll make this year. But if he's an All-American and people have money, and you never know, like, I don't know what the going rates are going to look like. I know Mark Bowman, a 5-star tight end, just got $8 million over 3 years. So Colin Simmons may be looking at that and thinking to himself, I'm worth a hot few million. Yeah. Like, as maybe the number one pass rusher in college football for a year. Well, if you're Texas, you could give him an obscene deal, and then, as Anwar said, get it done. You could get next year's stuff done in theory
before July 1st. Before July
1st, yes. And
in theory, but in theory, you can get it done. But come next year, that's where you're going to run into trouble, because if you give that guy $3 or $4 million, whatever the case is, and then next year, well, he's not going to take less. right? You're not going to come back to him next year and say, well, this is 650, so that's not going to happen. And now you got to figure out, the main thing is that at that point there's a salary cap, but there's also, you have to prove this is what his market value is. And that's what Ketch is saying, that now that becomes such a subjective conversation that probably ends up with more lawsuits as to opposed to what's my value at Texas versus Texas A&M or Ohio State or Georgia, all these other kind of things. Just adding in some stuff. I know it's a lot of things going on there.
I also, by the way, where did I see it? Hold on. Mike, thank you for the love. Anwar, have you ever seen Kenny Rogers in Six Pack?
No. Oh, no, I have not.
He is a NASCAR driver.
Okay.
Down on his luck. He's trying to get back in. He comes across 6 brother and sister orphans, all in one family.
I feel like I've seen this, though.
It's
a horror movie.
And because they're car thieves, they become his pit crew.
Oh, no, I haven't. I don't feel like I've seen this.
And then there's a Texas sheriff who's chasing them because he has a crime syndicate that the kids are part of. And so he chases them all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. And it's got a young Diane Lane in it. It's got a young Anthony Michael Hall in it. And of course it has Kenny Rogers as badass NASCAR driver.
Which was better, that movie or his chicken?
Oh, the movie. Look, man, my grandmother and I, we watched this movie like 100 times.
Okay, so definitely more than the chicken.
Yeah, man. I've only had Kenny Rogers chicken once.
Not less than Kramer did.
I've watched this movie with my kids a couple of times. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Okay. Clearly, I'm repping the 40-plus year movie T-shirt today. Yes, thank you, Mike. So,
and by the way, Ketch, there's another component in this too, right? Which becomes interesting, is that there's also back pay that's a part of this settlement. So there are other people who played. I think it starts from like 2016 or so, Ketch. Like, those people got to get paid, and I'm not quite sure what pool of it that comes out of. But if it's coming out of the settlement, what becomes interesting, and I love to maybe when you talk to your people about it, like, is that $20.5 million includes the back pay like Texas is owed, because there's people who were not able to capitalize on name, image, and likeness that now all of a sudden they're going to get they can submit something to get a check. And I don't even know what that looks like, which I know they're currently trying to work that out.
Hey, real quick, a couple of things. SRON 45, we're still doing live shows. We're just not going to do 4 a day some days. So that's it. Like, for instance, there will be a noon show, House Divided, or again, stay tuned. It will continue to go on. So don't worry. You'll have us. I had to go to this. It's time to change topics a little bit because this caught my attention. Rodolfo caught my attention. I don't know what this is, Anwar. Why is nobody talking about KJ Lacey overrated?
Well, that's because that's the Keelan Russell conversation, though, Catch. That's what that is.
I don't think that is, though. I've never seen Rodolfo come in hyping up Keelan Russell.
Listen, I've heard.
Rodolfo, what is that about? Why are you asking this question today?
Listen, I've heard. I guarantee you, he's going to say it's Keelan Russell because I've seen this on OB. I've seen this on my shows and stuff, and I know that people feel like, and they feel like, and then maybe and let's see what he said. But I know what people have said. They almost feel like, Keelan Russell ended up being what the number 1 quarterback in the class when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that Texas looked at and then never offered. And so I know there's some belief out there, like when you saw what he did at Duncanville, and it's like, why do we not get that guy? And why did we go after this guy? And now there's, been some question. Now he'll have to answer himself, but I think Keelan Russell being in the class does play a part.
Well, the thing is, I didn't love KJ Lacey as a prospect. So I didn't rate him as a 5-star. I didn't rank him as really even a super blue chip. He's very Graham Harrell-ish for me. A great football player with certainly good enough in college to have a great career, physical skills, but not a guy that I looked at and went, holy crap, like that's a future Sunday player. And in his first semester at Texas, he was better than I thought. I don't know what it means. Like, how would I change his recruiting ranking or anything like that? But at the end of the spring, he was taking reps as the number 2 quarterback along with Trey Owens. But, it's camp started and Trey Owens is kind of the number 2 quarterback. And by the end of camp, now some of this has to do with Trey Owens not at the end of the spring being where they want him to be. But I think KJ Lacey was better in the first semester of college than they anticipated. And so much so that I think the decision to bring in Matthew Caldwell was like, look, our backup quarterback might be KJ Lacey in truth, but we don't want to burn a red shirt. We don't want to put him in a position where, because he's the backup, he's wasting a season because we're taking knees in the fourth quarter and stuff like that. So KJ Lacey's really important to them. And I think had they seen him, or Trey Owens had been the guy they wanted in the spring, like maybe they don't bring in the 4th quarterback this fall. But I think in the name of protecting KJ Lacey at all costs, I think that was a move that had him in mind in a really positive way. And if KJ Lacey ends up being so good that he's just the number 2 quarterback, then again, I don't know why we would be talking about him as overrated. Oh, and Rodolfo says there's nothing against KJ. I'm just wondering why there's no buzz around him. Rodolfo, I think there has been buzz around him, but it's just that, look, Anwar and I have joked for 10 years that the most popular quarterback at Texas is the backup quarterback. And that's always a joke everywhere. It's definitely a joke in the NFL. Like, we've all heard that thing for decades. I can remember being 7 years old and the Danny White, Gary Hogaboom controversy, right? So, like, we've all been there. Except when Arch Manning's your quarterback.
Well, then there's that. When
Arch Manning's your quarterback, or a Manning in general, the backups don't get discussed a lot. It's how that goes.
No.
I don't make the rules, but I can explain them to you. And so nobody's talking about KJ really because there's no reason to. But
if we were talking about KJ, there might be a problem. Like
there is, like Trey Owens.
Yeah.
Trey Owens, they have brought in a guy to compete for the number 2 because at the end of the spring, KJ Owens kind of was looking better than Trey Owens. And that's not what they wanted. It's good for KJ. It's not what they're expecting out of their backup quarterback going into year 2, and especially because they would expect Trey Owens to have really consistently taken some steps from last spring when he was a freshman. They're not giving up on Trey Owens. I think Matthew Caldwell serves as a bit of a kick in the pants, like, yo, man, because he'll know it's really not Caldwell that he needs to worry about. It's next year. If you can't deal with this kid, Caldwell.
But Caldwell's he only has 1 year of eligibility.
Correct. He's a 1-year stopgap in case of emergency break glass. But if he ends up being the option over Trey Owens in a break glass moment, then that's all you need to know about who's going to be in front of the pecking order next year. It will be KJ Lacey. So I think Trey Owens has a little bit of a clock running against him. I would just say this, Rodolfo. I'm buying more stock in KJ Lacey now than I was when he was a recruit in high school. I would say that actually translates to some healthy buzz around him, even if it's not something that we're talking about, on a daily basis, because he's the backup quarterback and the starter is Arch Manning. But in a world where Quinn Ewers was the starting quarterback and there was no Arch Manning, sadly, And look, if Quinn were watching right now, he's probably saying some version of, "You got it right." If Quinn was the starting quarterback instead of Arch Manning, KJ Lacey's probably being talked about more because usually the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town.
But you know what? Even when Quinn was the starting quarterback, Malik Murphy didn't have a ton of buzz, right? I mean, so not a ton.
I don't know, man. People
buzz. The only
that spring game performance.
Okay, the spring game where Quinn doesn't play, sure, but that was it.
There were people going into that Houston game, Anwar, that were like, now you're going to see what a real quarterback looks like. And Quinn might not get his job back, guy. That was a real thing.
Yeah, and those same people a couple of weeks later are like, damn, I sure can't wait for Quinn to get back.
No, I know. But I mean, I would just say I think there is more Malik Murphy buzz. And there was no spring game. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Rodolfo, that's probably the elephant in the room, right? The mainstream fan 2 years ago got to see a little bit of Trey Owens, and they were like, God damn, that boy's good.
Yeah.
And the year before, you got to see Malik Murphy, and he kind of had the same thing. It's very coming to America-ish. That boy's good. We didn't get that. And look, if KJ Lacey gets a chance to run out and play the 2s or the 3s a little bit in a scrimmage format on television, there's probably more buzz. Instead, there were just other things for us to spend more time talking about with regards to shows and content on Orange Bloods and stuff like that. And so, but I can tell you, we did write about KJ Lacey and Trey Owens. Like, believe me, those guys have been talked about a lot. I think the bigger answer to your question is there's Arch, and then there was no spring game, and there's just less buzz in general about guys that people haven't seen play. Yeah. I'm trying to look.
Making sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I'm just making sure, because sometimes you start doing the dissertation. And now this is an interesting. S. Roan says Lacey in 2027 and then Bell in 2028. Now, S. Roan, that sounds like some ish. That could be true, by the way, that Anwar will report because the source will tell him that with a straight face and mean it. They'll be like, oh, yeah. No, in our perfect world, Arch plays in 2026, goes first overall pick in the draft. KJ Lacey then comes in for a year, tears it up, first pick in the draft. And then Diabell comes in the next year. We've heard this before.
Well, I heard it from Quinn, what was it, 3 seasons ago, what the plan was. And
Malik.
Oh yeah. It was supposed to go. Yeah, I think it was Quinn, Malik, the Arch. It was supposed to be 1 year, like one and done. Like these guys, we're just gonna run them out, man. Everyone go to the NFL, man.
A conveyor belt of first round draft picks.
Yes, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's still we're still kind of hanging on to the Colt McCoy era of draft picks.
And this is what I would say, because I'm kind of with Vivek here. While I'm giving Lacey some flowers today because of having a good spring, I also agree that Diabell I think he's better. I don't want to be, look, KJ Lacey's had a semester in college and looks like a real deal guy. So I don't want to start adding too much to it, but I have Diabell ranked as a 5-star, and I didn't have KJ Lacey ranked as even a high 4-star prospect, borderline close, but I didn't really I thought he was more national top 100 than national top 50. Which I know some people might hear that and go, what are you talking about? What's the difference between 50 and 100? Believe me, there is. And it really is the most subjective thing that you've ever seen in your entire life, but it feels like a Jedi. Like I can only tell you how it feels. I can't always quantify it. Sorry. I know it's weird. Hey, don't ever suggest that I've never said that high school football recruiting rankings aren't a pseudoscience. They are. I took a class at UT called pseudoscience. I'm well-versed in it. Recruiting, absolutely a pseudoscience. Why do you think I try to do all the things I do with actually quantifying things? Because it's the most pseudoscience thing in the history of pseudosciences. But Vivek,
by the way, just like real quick, just since we're on the quarterback conversation, and you know I love to talk quarterbacks. I'm just for our next song on my album, I'm just gonna play the hits. Go ahead and do Mark, and then I got a question for you. Do you want to do Mark, or do you want to do my question?
I'm trying to do Mark. I'm reading Mark.
Okay.
And I can't say it out loud. Look, let me try. On one hand, KJ could be the next Bryce Young. I think that's a bit much, but okay. On the other hand, Trey reminds me of Andrew Luck, where, sorry, that's the part I keep stopping there, Anwar.
I mean,
where he says Trey reminds him of Andrew Luck, where we could lose him and he shines elsewhere, and we're left kicking ourselves for not going with him.
What does Trey have in common with Andrew Luck outside of being like big and skin color?
Oh, you took skin color away from me? They're quarterbacks.
Okay.
They're from Texas.
Okay.
You
know what?
I really can't go skin color because I'm running out of things.
I outside of maybe the stature and skin color, I don't. I mean, we're talking about first round picks. Like both of them remind you of first round picks. I mean, it's high.
I saw Andrew Luck's one of my all time regrets because I got it in my head that guy didn't play anybody competition wise. And I kind of ignored what the eyeballs. I can remember seeing Andrew Luck throw the football a number of times. And he just kind of reminded me of Rhett Bomar a little bit in high school, where I questioned a little bit of the Quinn Ewers thing. Was like, man, when the speed picks up and the bodies start getting in front of him, what's it going to look like? And with Bomar, it was a disaster. With Quinn, kind of a inconclusive results at times. And with Andrew Luck, I had that question, and he just killed it. And you know what? Yeah. I didn't ask that question about Arch Manning because I saw it with Andrew Luck. It's like, oh, when your dad plays in the NFL and like you get the level of coaching and training and like Arch will be fine. Arch has been fine, even though Anwar will tell you, man, the first few weeks that Arch was here, there were people who were like, yo, Arch might not even be the third team quarterback. He might get beat out by a walk-on. It always takes time sometimes for these guys. I'll never forget when Cedric Griffin showed up for his first day of practice in 2000. Mm-hmm. The likes of Roy Williams and B.J. Johnson and Sloan Thomas and those guys, like they were making fun of him. They thought he looked terrible. And they're like, this guy doesn't deserve to be here. And then like a week later, it was like, oh, this guy's might start at corner. Every guy, it's different. The light switch comes on at different points. And I don't even remember when Arches flicked on, but it took a little bit of time. With guys like Andrew Luck, man, it just happened fast. Andrew Luck played really early. He played with an NFL head coach. And that's the other thing that I think all these quarterbacks have an advantage with. Sarkeesian's been a pro coach. He deals specifically with the quarterbacks, with all due respect to A.J. Milwee, who we know is involved, but these guys go there to be with Sark. And these guys get the counsel and I think the deft touch that a guy like Andrew Luck would have had coming out of high school into college and having Jim Harbaugh as his coach. And like, as it's when it's all said and done, Jim Harbaugh is going to go down as one of the probably just top pound for pound football coaches that's ever lived. And he won't be like up there with Belichick, but he'll be able to say, I did stuff that Nick Saban didn't do. I won a national championship in college and didn't do it with a bunch of 5 stars. And I've been to a Super Bowl and been within a grasp of having both of those two things. And you guys would be talking about me like I'm Jimmy Johnson. Then I would be NFL Hall of Fame coach Jim Harbaugh if all of that had happened. So, I think when we talk about Diabell and Arch and some of these guys that have come through Texas, just because Andrew Luck came up By the way, Mark follows this up. I got to tell you this story on where I think I've told you this before, but there will be people watching this video.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to mental note because I still have my question for you.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Had Mack pursued Luck, 2008. Yeah, no, he's talking about that may change the direction of college football. No, Mark, it absolutely does. If he pursues Luck and gets Luck, Andrew Luck is the guy going in at quarterback for the national championship game in 2009, January 2010, instead of Garrett Gilbert. They didn't have anybody else. They had to play Garrett Gilbert. Now, here's my story. Andrew Luck, the number one quarterback in Texas in his class, took a junior day visit to Texas in like January of 2007. And Anwar, Andrew Luck drove his ass down to Texas. This is how good Texas used to have it. The number one quarterback in the state showed up, and Texas ignored him the entire time, and Mack Brown never said a word to him. And I did an interview with Andrew Luck later where Andrew Luck was like, yeah, man, I had a good trip. Didn't get a chance to talk to Mack Brown, but it was fun.
Jesus.
They didn't offer Andrew Luck. They didn't recruit Andrew Luck. They didn't even try, even when that kid came to their backyard.
That's bad.
That's
bad. But I mean,
happened.
But don't we? Isn't that the part of the Andrew Luck one's bad, but isn't there's still the RG3 kind of
We're
thing?
in the same recruiting class.
Okay, recruiting classes. I was just going to say, isn't there a long history of the quarterbacks that Mack didn't go after?
Luck was the most egregious because RG3 kind of blew up as a senior, and he did blow up as a senior, and he was being recruited as an athlete by a lot of schools, and then as a senior played so well at quarterback that everybody started saying, we'll recruit you as a quarterback instead of a wide receiver, whereas Andrew Luck was the number one quarterback prospect in the state and a guy that some people thought was a 5-star level talent, and obviously in retrospect he was. And he showed up. Like,
what about Manziel? Did he show up?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Manziel came to camps and stuff like that. I saw Johnny Manziel his senior year. I want to say it was the Colorado game in 2009. Mm-hmm. I want to say the Colorado game in 2009, Manziel was an unofficial visitor guest for that game. I saw him at a game as a guest recruit at some point when he was a senior, but I can't remember what game it was. But I think it was Colorado, 2009. My idiot savant brain somehow thinks he remembers that, and I can't remember something my wife told me earlier today at 9 a.m. Goes that way sometimes.
All right.
Well, we got anything else?
No. The question I've been trying to ask you for the last 10 minutes.
Sorry.
So there is that. So
hey, just what I said, Anwar, in action. I can remember a random rare thing from a game in 2009, and I can't remember that 5 seconds ago you said you were going to ask me a question. So sorry about that.
Well, actually 5 minutes ago, and then 7 minutes ago, and then now 30 seconds ago. But nonetheless,
keep score on me. Like I'm always going to be at a deficit.
So we were talking about, just real quick, we ended with this. We had the quarterback conversation, and everyone started talking about 2025, 2026. I'm curious, and this is a topic for another day, but let's just scratch the surface here.
I love it when we do this. Give it to me.
Sark seems to be all chips in on Peyton Houston because Gunnar River comes and we think, okay, but maybe he's going to get an offer. They've only offered 2 kids so far in the 2027 class, and one of those guys is already committed to Ohio State. Is it Edmonds, I believe, is his name? He's already into Ohio State. It seems like Sark is pretty precision-like with the QBs that he goes after. Like he ain't offering 5, 6, 7 of them. It's like one.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And that's it. Like your thought on the whole, because it leads into that when we started about the Keelan Russell thing, right? There was a KJ Lacey conversation, and then Keelan comes, he visits campus, and they're like, nah, we're not going to offer you after visiting. So and
the timing is everything, because if KJ Lacey hadn't given an early commitment and had been open in February of last year, I think they would have gone, there was a Ryan Williams dream when they took KJ Lacey that they hoped this would be the thing. Come on, baby. Just come visit Texas a time or two. Like, come with KJ. And there was a hope. There really was. And I get it. But last February, they might have had a sense, well, hell, man, Ryan Williams is on campus at Alabama. So at that point, they may have said, well, hey, if we get Russell, who might be better, would that help us at all with Decorian Moore? Oh, it wouldn't hurt, you say. Okay. Like there were, you know what I mean? There were dynamics in that. And to Texas's credit, I think they thought that KJ Lacey was going to peel off because he was taking visits to Auburn.
Yeah.
And I think they were like, look, that kid takes one more freaking visit to a school in Alabama. We're going to go get Keelan Russell. And to KJ Lacey's credit, I think he got that message. He didn't take any more visits anywhere ever again. And then to Sarkeesian's credit, Lacey firmed it up, and they stopped playing footsie with Keelan Russell. And it's kind of say la vie, the rest is history. I think that tells you how much they like KJ Lacey, because they know they could have got in on Keelan Russell. He was waiting. And there were conversations for months about, I'm just waiting to hear from Texas. Kind of waiting to see what they're going to do. And then his stock just blew up. He didn't need Texas anymore at that point. And Texas, because KJ Lacey was locked in, needed him. But I think you're right on, War. I think, well, first of all, the word on the street, these recruiting streets that I peruse from time to time, is that Rivers didn't have a great camp. It happens. Doesn't mean anything. But I think that in the vein of the conversation that we were talking about, I think they were probably not going to offer that kid whether or not he had a great camp or not. For the reason, because they don't do shotgun offers at quarterback. No. And they usually get their first target even when they're told, oh, you're not going to get Arch Manning. Well, cool. If you'll forgive us, we're not going to offer any other quarterbacks until the Arch thing is kind of taken care of. And then Trey Owens comes early, and KJ Lacey comes early, and Diabell comes early, and they are not, this isn't like that, the T-shirt gun at a Longhorn basketball game. They're not just shooting those things out into a crowd of quarterbacks. It's like, you've got a Texas offer, and I think you've nailed it with Peyton Houston. Now, I think there could be a conversation about, should that be the guy? Because I think there's some conversation about who the actual best quarterback guy. There's a number of guys that are kind of in the conversation, and there doesn't seem to be, I think, a true consensus. But I think that's their guy. And it's really fascinating because that kid's taken like 500 trips this spring. He's gone everywhere. He's gone everywhere multiple times, which makes getting a finger on the pulse of his recruitment kind of hard. Because every time you think he's going to happen, it's like, oh, he's going back to Oklahoma for the 5th time, or A&M for the 19th time, or something like that. So it is a little unique. But I think you're exactly right. And I think your read on that, Anwar, is exactly right. That is, when it comes to quarterbacks, Sark finds his guy, and he's going to fight to the death for that guy, especially when he's recruited well otherwise at the position. They've got Diabell in this class. So their next quarterback, he doesn't have to settle. He cannot take anybody.
True.
Because he'll know in a stopgap, he can always take a Matthew Caldwell if he needs to fill in the gap. He knows that he's not losing, and he's losing Caldwell. But he's losing Caldwell, but he gains Diabell. Yeah. And on paper, they wouldn't want to lose anybody from the group. So next year, they could get by without taking a 2027 quarterback. They really could.
True.
And then you look so much better in 2028 to the best quarterback in the country if you've not taken anybody at all in the year after you've taken Diabell, and you really allow yourself to spread that out a little bit. It's like, okay, well, you're going to come in red shirt, and that'll be Diabell's second or third season, and then it's much easier. Then you can go get Arch Manning at that point because Quinn Ewers doesn't seem so scary because they can do the math of 1, 2, 3. They can count to 3. And they can see like these are when guys are probably going to go pro where you will settle in to start. So I think if you're Sarkeesian, I don't think he's tripping at all. I don't think there's any reason for him to budge, any reason for him to go down his pecking order. There's almost no incentive for him to do so because if they really wanted a guy, they could always just jump in late, throw an NIL offer on the table if they wanted it that bad and just change the dynamics of a recruitment like that. I mean, it's a new era. And I think, Texas is kind of at the forefront of leverage right now. He's got a bunch of it.
And the thing is, lastly, I'll close with this catch. The one thing I've been told is, hey, at the end of the day, we'd like to be careful with the offers that we make because sometimes we just don't want guys to commit, right? And that's where back in the day when like schools like Alabama would send out 400 offers.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't matter because you had to come to a Saban camp. And so none of them were committable until you actually step foot on campus. He doesn't go the Saban route of that or some of these other directional schools that do that. But it's almost like, hey, we know we offer you might commit. So man, we will wait until we need to offer you. But we're serious when we ask you to out on a date. We do want to take you out. We're not swiping. On Tinder and Bumble, and we're just getting as many people as we can to see who I can hang out with on a Friday night. It's real kind of, real selective is what it seems like.
Have you ever been out on a date where you liked a girl, liked her? Like you were like, I like her. Mm-hmm. And then the date went really, really well, but then she got like really, really drunk. And it's like, I don't know. Like there's no, if this happens, like it's forever, like I should wait. It will be better to wait. It shouldn't, if I like her, be like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's how Sark looks at it. Like he's just not trying to cash in with these offers and with, you know what I mean? Like he's like, because guys will want to commit and Sark will say, hey, you want to take visits, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you commit, we won't want you to take visits. So just take your visits. They turn commitments off because Sark prefers to be the predator and not the defender of commitments. He loves to swoop in late, to be the badger that annoys the crap out of every school that's got a commitment from a guy. And then look, his success rate is incredibly high. So like, you have to give him benefit of the doubt on that front because he's right now as good as anybody in the country at it. Look, he just signed the #1 recruiting class in the country, and that was not because he dominated the state of Texas to such an extent that the recruiting rankings were one-sided. No, he went everywhere to get guys, and they'll start taking commitments this month, like really taking commitments. But I think even then, I think he takes them now because he knows I kind of have to. Guys are really starting to make decisions, and we don't want to put ourselves into a position where we're trying to sign 20 guys instead of 5 in November. But I think if he could, he wouldn't take any. I think he wishes there was a world where there were not any such thing as commitments. You just sign in December, And then he could just recruit balls to the wall in terms of like his approach all the way to the finish line, because that's what he prefers. You know, if he gets a quarterback commitment from Houston right now, he then has to play defense against everybody for 18 months. And he don't like that. He didn't like it with KJ Lacey. He didn't like it when KJ Lacey was showing up at Alabama and showing up at Auburn. And well, all things considered, he'd rather that kid just not been committed. But KJ Lacey wanted to commit.
Yeah.
In that situation, when you're talking about a guy that might have been a 5-star quarterback, you have to change your rules a little bit. But I think if Sark had his druthers, he'd have been making a quarterback decision in March of last year. And maybe it is Keelan Russell at that point. But, you know, the dynamics of these things sometimes control you and not the other way around. But that rarely happens to Sark, where he's not in complete control of things. Okay, guys, shout out to the Texas Card House just for being awesome. Great people. 6 locations all over the state of Texas, including one here in Spring, like right down the road from me. Hijack Poker. Get your Hijack Poker on. And real quick, before you leave, because, you know, these things are important, a quick word from Lisa and our favorite people at Specs.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. Shop Specs! No matter what's on the menu, we've got you covered. With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Shop Specs! Special occasion? Flirt responsibly. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here.
Shop Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you. Shop. Cheers to savings.
I don't understand the line dancing, but it's nevertheless, I love it.
Hold on. I know there's been just a lot of comments about the dating situation. When you made a dating reference, so of course that's like mentioning Kirk Bowles in the chat. Like if you talk about the Honors dating, then it's like the Kirk Bowles. It just doesn't stop. Let's be clear, T. There is no Uncle Shay Shay going on here whatsoever.
I'm not even going to say anything. I will not comment on that.
I will comment on that because I need to make sure that they know in these streets, Unc ain't going to embarrass you like that. I've been with the same. I've been with the. I actually, very few people know. Catch, and only a hand. I keep most of my stuff private as relates to my private that whole dating thing. Because sometimes my shit is going south. But I've been with someone pretty damn serious for the past like few years now. So you don't got to worry about being in them streets like that. I'm good. I'm actually real good. All right. I want to clarify that. I don't want anybody to worry about it. I am not going to embarrass you like that.
Tracy, I don't know about you. It sounded like he was trying to convince himself more than he was trying to convince us.
I ain't got no 19-year-old girl saying Uncle. That's like saying that's borderline saying R. Kelly. That when you're talking about someone who was messing with a teenage girl.
The thing is, there's so many stories now that like the one you're associating with isn't even the one that I'm associating with.
That's what I'm thinking of, and I'm like, wait. He's messing around with a teenage girl. But nah, hold on now. Let's not even go there.
I'm trying to imagine Monique sitting down on the couch with you, giving you a lecture. Anwar, what have I got to tell?
No, you ain't got to worry about with the young ones there. I'm not trying to learn new dances.
Anwar's like, hey, take me to the cookout. I need to introduce me to some nice girls. Trust me.
Trust me, Unc's good. I'm doing good. I'm good. Trust me.
I've been married for so long. I'm just what I am. I'm good. Yes, I am. Guys, like, subscribe, comment. I said that already. For myself and Anwar Richardson, we've had fun. I hope you have as well. We'll see you tomorrow. If not, have a great weekend. If not, go watch some videos from yesterday. We have videos all over this channel.
Softball tonight, Cat. Softball tonight.
Oh, good luck, Texas softball team. My anticipation is that we'll do the show tomorrow and you guys will be the national champions. And who knows, maybe you'll even make the thumbnail. Until then, you guys take care. Later.